They said she'd never bear a child, until a cowboy held her and defied the whole town. The colony of New Horizon hung like a tiny jewel on the edge of the orange gas giant, Zorath. The settlement was small, no more than a few dozen metal and glass structures built against the harsh winds of the planet. Dust storms were a daily challenge, and the colonists had learned to live in cautious harmony with their strange world. But despite its challenges, New Horizon was a place of hope, a fragile outpost of humanity on the frontier of space. Dr. Alara Vance walked slowly through the central plaza, her boots kicking up clouds of red dust. She hugged her coat tightly against the chill of the high-altitude wind. Even with the helmet tucked under her arm, the wind howled like an invisible predator. She had spent nearly all her life preparing for a future in this remote colony. But today the whispers of doubt followed her like shadows. "They say Shika," a voice muttered as she passed the Hydra farm. "No one ever thought she'd have a child." Ilara paused, letting the words settle in her mind. She had heard them countless times. Some were kind-hearted, curious whispers, and some were sharp, cruel jabs meant to isolate her. Yet, none of them ever shook her determination to continue her work. She had dedicated her life to xenobiology, studying the strange plants and tiny life forms that existed only on Zorath. She entered the lab, a small glass structure filled with greenery that thrived under artificial sunlight. Alien plants, some luminescent, some delicate, some towering, swayed gently in the breeze of the ventilation system. Alara ran her fingers across the leaves of a bright blue flowering vine. It was her favorite plant, the stellar bloom, a rare species that responded to human touch. "Good morning, Alara," said Mina, her assistant, a cheerful young botanist with boundless curiosity. "You're early." "Too early," Alara replied with a small smile. "The storms keep me awake, I think." Mina glanced at the window. Outside, the wind tore at the protective mesh around the lab. "Storm picking up. The Hydra farms need attention. We'll be buried in dust by noon if the shields fail." Alara sighed. Duty always came first. Even as the rumors followed her, she never allowed herself to falter. The colony had little tolerance for mistakes, and she had learned long ago that failure was a luxury she could not afford. Meanwhile, on the outer edge of the colony, a strange figure approached on a hovering rover. His long coat flapped like a banner against the rising winds, and his wide-brimmed hat shaded eyes that had seen far more than most of the colonists ever would. Cade Hollister, a man as rugged and solitary as the frontier itself, was new to New Horizon, but already his reputation had begun to spread. He was a cowboy in every sense of the word, resourceful, brave, and stubbornly independent. Unlike the cautious colonists, Cade believed in action and ingenuity rather than rules. He had come to New Horizon to repair the colony's failing life support system, a task many had deemed impossible. The rover hissed as it settled near the Hydra farms, and Cade stepped out, boots crunching against the red dust. He surveyed the structures with a critical eye, noting the subtle signs of wear, the weak spots in the metal frames, the warning signs that most had ignored. "Storms coming faster than expected," he muttered to himself. "Better get moving." Back in the lab, Alara's hands moved skillfully as she checked each plant. The stellar bloom glowed brighter as she approached, sensing her presence. "I wonder if you understand more than I give you credit for," she whispered softly. It was moments like these when she felt alive, connected to something larger than the cold metal walls and the unforgiving dust outside. A sharp knock interrupted her thoughts. She looked up to see Cade standing at the lab's entrance, his coat dusted with red, his hat tilted slightly back. "Dr. Vance." His voice was low, steady, and carried an ease she hadn't heard in years. "That's me," she replied cautiously, adjusting her helmet under her arm. "You're the new engineer." "That's right," he said, stepping inside. "I hear the colony's having trouble with the life support shields. Thought I'd offer a hand." Alara raised an eyebrow, A hand or a storm warning, Cade smiled faintly, unshaken by her tone. Both. The storm is coming. We don't have time for small talk. Together, they moved toward the hydro farms. Alara couldn't help but notice Cade's ease in the wind, the way he seemed to read the structures as if they were alive. She had spent months studying every angle, every detail, and yet he immediately spotted the weak points. "See this," he said, pointing at a support beam slightly bent under the constant wind pressure. "It won't last through the next storm." Alara nodded. "I saw it. But we've been saving resources to reinforce the central farm first." "Priorities make sense," he said. "But sometimes you have to fight the storm before it fights you." Something about his confidence unsettled the colony's cautious scientist, but it also intrigued her. It had been so long since someone approached her world with both intelligence and courage. That night, after they worked tirelessly, the storm hit. Winds howled around the colony like the cries of unseen creatures, and dust filled the air, making breathing difficult even inside protective suits. Alara and Cade huddled near the hydrofarm controls, adjusting shields and monitoring energy levels. "You handle yourself well in this wind," Cade said, his voice almost drowned by the howling storm. "I've learned to survive," Alara replied. "Not all of us have the luxury of leaving the frontier." A moment of silence passed. Despite the storm, the lab's lights reflected in Cade's eyes, revealing a depth that intrigued her. "Do you ever stop?" he asked softly. "Stop," she asked, "questioning yourself, questioning what the colony says, questioning what's possible." Alara looked away, glancing at the glowing stellar bloom in the corner. She had spent her life doubted by doctors, by colonists, by her own fears. "Sometimes," she admitted. "But we have to try or nothing happens." Cade nodded. "I like that answer. People who try are dangerous." But in a good way. The storm finally began to subside just before dawn. The wind softened, leaving a quiet, dusty calm. Alara stepped outside, looking at the horizon where the twin suns were rising. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself a small hope, a spark that maybe the impossible could be possible. Cade joined her, leaning against the rover. "You know," he said quietly, "sometimes the universe gives you a second chance. You just have to reach for it." Alara's heart stirred. His words were simple, yet carried a truth she had longed to hear. For so long she had been told she couldn't have a child. Doctors had given her the facts. The colony had whispered doubts. And yet somehow this stranger, a cowboy from the stars, made her believe in possibility again. "You make it sound easy," she said, smiling faintly. Cade shrugged. "Easy isn't my style, but I don't scare easily either, and neither should you." The dust settled. The suns rose higher, and somewhere between the glowing light of the alien world and the warmth of this new companionship, Alara felt something shift. Maybe the colony's doubts were not the final word. Maybe the universe had surprises yet. And she would face them. The storm had passed, leaving New Horizon wrapped in an almost eerie calm. Red dust coated the colony's metal surfaces, giving everything a dull, orange glow. The twin suns rose slowly over the horizon, and for the first time in days, the winds quieted enough for the colonists to begin repairs. Dr. Alara Vance stepped outside the lab, brushing dust from her coat. She glanced at Cade Hollister, who was already inspecting the repaired hydrofarms with a critical eye. Despite the chaos of the storm, his calm presence made her feel strangely at ease. "Looks like we survived," she said, trying to sound cheerful. Cade turned, giving her a small grin. "Barely, but surviving is the first step. Next step is thriving." Alara smiled faintly. Thriving, it was a word she had not allowed herself to use in years. For too long, her life had been measured in limitations. The doctors had told her she could never bear a child. The colony whispered behind her back. And she had believed them, because sometimes believing in impossibility was easier than hoping for miracles. Yet Cade's presence brought a new kind of hope, a possibility she had not allowed herself to feel in years. The two of them worked together throughout the morning. Cade was practical and methodical, moving through the hydrofarms like he had been doing it his whole life. He tightened the shields, reinforced weakened beams, and adjusted energy flows. Alara assisted, her knowledge of the colony's systems matching Cade's hands-on expertise. "You move fast," she said, brushing dust from her gloves. "You adapt faster," Cade replied. "That's what humans do when they're stuck in a world that doesn't make sense. You adjust, you survive, you keep moving forward." Alara paused for a moment. The words felt strangely personal, as if Cade was speaking not just about the colony, but about her own life. She had survived, yes, but had she truly been moving forward? The thought lingered in her mind like the soft glow of the stellar bloom in her lab. By midday, the storm's damage was under control. Cade wiped his brow, looking around the colony with satisfaction. "Everything's stable for now," he said, "but the real work is in preparation. This planet isn't gentle, it's brilliant but dangerous." "You speak as if you know it," Alara remarked, curious. "I've seen worlds like this before," he said casually. "Frontiers where humans have to figure things out on the fly. Nature doesn't wait for permission, and neither should we." His words sparked something in Alara, a desire not just to survive, but to explore the possibilities that had been ignored for too long. She thought of the strange, glowing plants in her lab. Perhaps there was more to this world than mere survival. Perhaps it held answers, solutions, even hope. Later, in the lab, Alara tended to the alien plants with renewed energy. The stellar bloom seemed to glow brighter as she approached, sensing her presence. Cade leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, watching her work. "Why do you spend so much time with these plants?" he asked. Alara paused. "Because they're alive. They react to us. They adapt. They can teach us things humans sometimes forget." Cade raised an eyebrow. "Teach humans, like what?" "Patience," she said softly. "Hope, adaptability. Life is more than what we think is possible." Cade nodded thoughtfully. "I like that. Humans could use more of that these days." For a while, the lab was quiet except for the hum of the ventilation system and the soft rustle of leaves. Alara felt comfortable with Cade nearby, something she hadn't felt in years. It was more than trust. It was a feeling of partnership, of shared purpose. That evening, as the twin suns set and the sky turned deep orange, Cade approached her with an unusual excitement. "I found something," he said. Alara looked up from her notes. "Found something? What do you mean?" He held out a small container filled with a strange, luminescent liquid. "During the storm, I discovered a cluster of plants beyond the eastern ridge. I ran some quick tests, and well, these might be more than just normal flora." Alara's curiosity piqued. "More than normal?" "How? They emit a unique energy," Cade explained. "It's subtle, but it interacts with human biology in ways that might be significant. I don't know exactly yet, but I think it could enhance certain functions." Alara's heart skipped a beat. She hesitated, carefully considering the implications. Could it be possible? Could this world offer more than survival, a chance to defy the limits humans thought were final? Over the next few days, Alara and Cade ventured beyond the colony to study the plants. They navigated rocky cliffs, alien flora, and strange, bioluminescent fungi that pulsed softly in the dim light. The planet was beautiful and alive, unlike anything they had imagined. "You see," Cade said one evening as they examined the glowing plants, "this world isn't trying to scare us. It's trying to test us. Humans aren't meant to just survive, we're meant to adapt and discover." Alara nodded, feeling a strange sense of excitement she hadn't felt in years. "And maybe, just maybe, we can uncover something that changes everything." As they studied the plants, Alara noticed something astonishing. The energy emitted by the alien flora seemed to interact with her body in subtle ways. Her senses felt sharper, her energy more balanced. It was like a gentle nudge from the universe, reminding her that possibility existed, even in the most unlikely places. One night, while cataloging their findings, Cade spoke quietly. "Ilara, I don't want to overstep, but I think these plants could offer hope for things people said were impossible." Ilara looked at him, curiosity and fear mixed in her eyes. "You mean for me?" He nodded. "Maybe, I can't say for certain, but I do know one thing: humans have a way of defying odds. And you've already defied them more than anyone knows." The words struck her deeply. For years she had been told she was limited, that her dreams were impossible. But now, standing in a lab filled with alien plants glowing softly in the twilight, with Cade beside her, she felt hope stir inside her. The colony began to notice the pair working together. At first, people whispered, "Ilara's obsessed with those plants again. Who's that cowboy working with her?" But gradually, curiosity replaced doubt. Even the skeptical colonists began to ask questions. "What are you two doing out there?" one elder finally demanded, peering at the glowing plants. "We're studying the planet," Ilara replied calmly, "learning from it, understanding it. These plants may hold secrets that could benefit all of us." Cade added quietly, "Sometimes you have to look past fear to see what's really possible." The elder shook his head, unsure. "I hope you know what you're doing." Ilara and Cade exchanged a glance, silently agreeing. They didn't just hope, they believed. Days passed and the plants revealed more astonishing properties. Their energy seemed to enhance human fertility, a subtle, gentle effect that science could barely explain. Ilara's heart raced with the possibilities. Could this really be happening? Could something long thought impossible finally become possible? Cade watched her reaction carefully. "I know it's a lot to take in," he said softly, "but sometimes the universe gives opportunities to those brave enough to notice." Ilara nodded, feeling a warmth in her chest she hadn't known for years. The doctors, the whispers, the limitations, they seemed distant now, replaced by the excitement of discovery and the promise of a future she had never imagined. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon and the plants glowed softly in the twilight, Ilara turned to Cade. "I don't know if this will work," she said honestly, "but maybe, just maybe, there's a chance." Cade smiled, taking her hand gently. "Then we'll find out together. Whatever happens, we'll face it. Humans are good at that, you know, defying odds, surviving storms, finding hope where none seems to exist." Ilara felt a surge of determination. The colony's doubts, the doctor's words, the whispers of impossibility, they no longer defined her. She had Cade, she had the plants, and she had herself. And sometimes that was all it took to change everything. The night deepened around them, the alien world glowing with life and promise. Somewhere in the quiet, the planet seemed to hum in approval, as if recognizing that two humans were daring to believe in something greater. And for the first time in her life, Ilara allowed herself to truly imagine a future where the impossible might just be possible. The sun rose over New Horizon, painting the dust in shades of gold and orange. The colony had quieted after the storm, but life here never truly paused. Colonists moved with cautious purpose, repairing structures, checking hydrofarms, and ensuring their fragile settlement remained alive on this harsh world. Dr. Ilara Vance walked toward the central lab, carrying a small container of glowing fluid from the alien plants. Beside her, Cade Hollister followed, adjusting his coat against the chill. Together, they had spent days studying the strange flora beyond the eastern ridge. Now, they were ready to begin the next step, testing the plant's effects in a controlled way. Ilara felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. She had never dared hope for something this extraordinary. The doctors had told her she could never bear a child. The colony had whispered doubts for years. And yet the glowing liquid in her hands promised a new possibility, a chance to defy expectations. The lab was quiet when they entered. Mina, Ilara's assistant, looked up with curiosity. "You brought more samples?" she asked, her voice full of awe. "Yes," Ilara replied. "We need to study these carefully. If our hypothesis is correct, this could change everything, not just for me, but for the colony. Cade set the containers on a table, his expression serious. We need to be careful. The plant's energy is strong. We can't rush, but we can't ignore what it might do. Alara nodded. They began the meticulous process of testing. Equipment beeped, sensors glowed, and notes were recorded. The alien plant's energy pulsed softly, as if alive and aware. As hours passed, the first subtle effects became clear. The energy from the plant interacted gently with Alara's body. Her senses felt heightened, her energy steadied. It was subtle but undeniable. I can feel it, Alara whispered, astonished. It's responding. Something is happening. Cade's eyes softened. I told you, humans are stronger than anyone thinks, and sometimes they just need a little help from the universe. News of their work spread quickly through the colony. At first it was curiosity. People whispered about the glowing plants and the mysterious cowboy helping the brilliant scientist. But soon, doubt and skepticism emerged. One afternoon, Elder Malin, a strict and traditionalist leader of the colony, stormed into the lab. His robes flapped as he moved and his eyes were stern. "Dr. Vance," he said sharply, "what is this? What are you doing with these alien plants?" Alara stood her ground, her heart racing. "We are studying them, Elder Malin. We believe they may have unique properties that could help humans survive and thrive here." Malin's face darkened. "I have heard rumors. You are tampering with nature. You are defying the order of things. This is dangerous and you could bring harm to the colony." Cade stepped forward, calm but firm. "Elder Malin, we are not being reckless. We are observing, testing, and proceeding carefully. Fear should not stop us from discovering what's possible." The room fell silent. For a moment, even the humming machinery seemed to pause. Malin's gaze shifted from Cade to Alara, scrutinizing her as though he could measure her worth by sight alone. "And you," he said, pointing at her, "you have ignored years of advice. You've acted on impossible dreams." "I am acting on science," Alara replied steadily. "On discovery, and yes, perhaps on hope." Malin's face tightened. "Hope is not enough. You cannot rewrite what humans are capable of. There are rules, there are limits." Cade shook his head slightly. "Limits exist only until someone decides to defy them. Humans thrive because they challenge limits. That is our nature. If we never dared, we'd never leave our worlds." Malin's scowl deepened, but some of the other colonists in the lab began to whisper among themselves. "Maybe he's right," one said. "Maybe Alara isn't just chasing dreams." "I've seen her work," another added quietly. "She's careful, she's brilliant, and maybe we've doubted her for too long." Alara noticed these murmurs and felt a small spark of relief. Perhaps the colony could begin to see reason. Perhaps the whispers of doubt could be replaced by curiosity, even wonder. Still, Elder Malin was not convinced. He turned sharply and left the lab, muttering warnings about defying natural law. Cade let out a slow breath. "Don't worry about him," he said quietly. "The people who matter will see the truth eventually." Alara nodded, though unease lingered. The colony's reaction could be a barrier, but she had Cade, she had the plants, and she had hope. And sometimes that was enough. Over the next few days, they worked in secret. Every evening, after the colony slept, Alara and Cade returned to the ridge to gather more plants. They catalogued every leaf, every glow, every subtle change. The alien flora seemed alive in a way that transcended ordinary biology. It adapted to them, responded to their presence, and even seemed to communicate in a way only the patient and observant could understand. One evening, Cade paused to watch the sunset. The sky blazed orange, streaked with violet clouds. "Do you ever think about how small we are?" he asked, more to himself than to Alara. "All the time," she replied. "But sometimes being small gives you the courage to see big possibilities, to try things that others never imagine." He looked at her and smiled. "You're right. And sometimes the universe rewards those who dare." Alara felt her chest tighten. The words rang true in every part of her. Perhaps this was the moment her life could change. Perhaps, with courage, science, and a little help from a glowing alien plant, she could defy the limitations that had shadowed her entire life. The next challenge came in the form of a community meeting. Word had spread about the glowing plants and Alara's experiments. Colonists crowded into the central hall, murmuring nervously. Many were curious, some skeptical, and a few openly critical. Elder Malin presided, his eyes scanning the crowd. "We are gathered to discuss Dr. Vance's experiment," he said, his voice formal but tense. "Some say it is promising, others say it is reckless. I urge caution." Alara stepped forward, holding the glowing container of plant energy. She could feel every pair of eyes upon her. She took a deep breath. "This is not an experiment born of recklessness," she said. "It is born of observation, of patience, and of hope. These plants are extraordinary. They interact with human biology in ways we cannot yet fully understand, but the potential is remarkable." A murmur ran through the crowd. Some colonists leaned in, fascinated. Others frowned, still unconvinced. Cade stepped forward, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "What Dr. Vance is doing is what humans do best: explore, experiment, adapt. We are on the frontier of space, on the edge of what is possible. We cannot let fear hold us back." The room grew quiet. The words carried weight. The colonists could feel the truth in them, even if their minds struggled to accept it. Finally, one woman spoke up. "If this can help people, if it can give hope, shouldn't we support it?" Another nodded. "Yes. Humans thrive because we dare to try." Elder Malin scowled but said nothing. The meeting ended without resolution, but a shift had occurred. Some colonists had begun to believe. That night, Alara and Cade returned to the lab, exhausted but exhilarated. The glowing plants pulsed softly under the artificial lights, as if sensing their success. Cade smiled. "You did well today. The colony saw you. They're questioning what they thought was impossible. That's progress." Alara sat down, holding the glowing container close. "Progress, yes, but I still wonder, can it really work? Can this plant really change everything?" Cade took her hand gently. "I don't know, but I do know one thing. Humans are capable of miracles when they refuse to accept limits. And you've already defied more odds than anyone else here." Alara felt a warmth spread through her chest. Perhaps the colony's doubts would not define her. Perhaps the whispers of impossibility would fade in the face of courage, science, and determination. The alien plants pulsed softly, glowing brighter in the dim light. And for the first time in her life, Alara felt a true sense of possibility. A sense that maybe, just maybe, the impossible could be possible. The dawn broke gently over New Horizon, painting the dust with soft shades of gold and rose. The colony stirred to life, but for Dr. Alara Vance, the day felt different. There was a quiet anticipation in the air, a feeling that something extraordinary was about to unfold. Over the past weeks, Alara and Cade Hollister had been studying the glowing alien plants. Their controlled tests had shown subtle but unmistakable effects on Alara's body. Energy had returned to her in ways she hadn't felt for years. She had started to believe that the impossible might truly be possible. And now, she was ready to see the results fully. The lab was quiet, filled only with the gentle hum of machinery and the soft glow of the alien flora. Cade was already at the workstation, adjusting sensors and checking energy flows. He looked up as Alara entered, giving her a reassuring smile. "Ready?" he asked softly. Alara nodded, holding a small vial of the plant's energy. "As ready as I'll ever be." They worked together meticulously, preparing the final stage of the experiment. Each movement was careful, deliberate. The glowing plant energy pulsed gently, almost as if it were alive and aware of what was happening. "Here we go," Cade whispered. "No rush, just focus and trust the process." Alara took a deep breath and began. The plant's energy flowed into the controlled environment, interacting with her body. She could feel it, warm, gentle, and alive. The sensation was unlike anything she had ever experienced. It was not painful, not frightening. It was a quiet, powerful affirmation that life itself had possibilities beyond what she had been told. Hours passed as they monitored every change. Data streamed across the screens, showing subtle shifts in Alara's energy, hormones, and cellular activity. Cade kept his hand lightly on her shoulder, a grounding presence amid the wonder of discovery. "You're doing amazing," he said softly. "Whatever happens, we're in this together." Alara smiled faintly. "I've waited so long, maybe too long, to hope." Cade shook his head. "Hope is never too late. Humans survive because we hope, because we try, because we refuse to accept limits." The lab was quiet again, save for the soft hum of machines. Slowly, signs became clear. The alien plant energy was stimulating Alara's body in ways that defied medical expectations. Where doctors had seen impossibility, nature had provided a gentle nudge, a spark of potential. Alara's heart raced. Could this truly mean what she hoped? Could she really? Outside the lab, the colony had begun to notice the lights and hum from the alien plant experiments. At first, people whispered. Then curiosity replaced doubt. Colonists approached cautiously, peering through the glass at the glowing plants and the pair working intently. Among them were some of the skeptics who had attended the earlier community meeting. They watched silently, their expressions a mix of awe and uncertainty. No one dared interrupt, but the energy in the air had shifted. Humans could sense when something extraordinary was happening. Elder Malin approached, his face unreadable. "Dr. Vance, what is happening in here?" he asked. Alara stepped forward calmly. "Elder Malin, the plants are interacting with human biology. I am experiencing changes that were once thought impossible. This is proof that humans can still discover miracles." Cade stood beside her, firm and supportive. "The colony can see for themselves that this is safe. That progress is not fear, it is discovery. And sometimes the impossible is only impossible until we try." Malin's gaze softened, though he said nothing. For the first time, even he could not deny the possibility that humans were capable of more than he had imagined. Days turned into weeks, and the changes became more profound. Alara's energy stabilized, her body responded in extraordinary ways, and the colony watched as the impossible seemed to unfold before them. Some colonists began to offer help, carrying equipment, cataloging plants, and assisting with monitoring. Slowly, the whispers of doubt transformed into curiosity, then admiration. One evening, Cade and Alara sat outside the lab, watching the twin suns set behind the ridges. The alien plants glowed softly behind them, filling the lab with a gentle, pulsing light. "I never imagined it would come this far," Alara said softly. "For years I felt trapped by limits, by words, by doubt. And now," she trailed off, looking at the glowing horizon. Cade smiled. "Now you've proven that limits exist only until someone defies them. Humans thrive because we keep trying, even when everyone else says it's impossible." Alara felt tears in her eyes. For so long, she had been told she could not bear a child. The weight of those words had shadowed her life. But now, with the alien plants, with science, with courage, and with Cade by her side, she could feel hope as tangible as the glowing light surrounding them. Then came the moment that changed everything. Alara felt the first undeniable sign, the clear, unmistakable affirmation that life was beginning within her. The plant energy had worked. The impossible had become possible. Cade's face lit up with wonder. "Alara, it's happening. You're—" "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. I am." They embraced quietly, letting the moment settle in. Outside, the colony could almost feel the shift, a triumph of human perseverance, courage, and hope. In the following days, the colony celebrated cautiously but joyfully. Colonists who had doubted began to marvel at what they had once thought impossible. The alien plants glowing softly in the lab had proven themselves as allies to humanity, guiding them toward new possibilities. Elder Malin approached Alara, his expression unreadable. "I doubted," he admitted quietly. "I did not believe, but now I see that humans are capable of more than I ever imagined. You have shown us all the value of courage and perseverance." Alara smiled gently. "We all have the ability to surprise ourselves. Sometimes we just need a little help to see it." Cade stood beside her, pride in his eyes. "Humans are stronger than they think, and we can always find a way to thrive, even in worlds that seem impossible." The days passed with careful monitoring of the alien plants and Alara's progress. Her energy stabilized further, and the colony began to plan for a future filled with new possibilities. The once skeptical colonists now marveled at the wonder of discovery, inspired to explore, adapt, and imagine beyond what they had once believed possible. Alara spent quiet moments in the lab, watching the glowing plants and feeling a growing connection to the world around her. She thought of the years of doubt, the whispers, the impossibilities. And now she felt a profound gratitude for the plants, for Cade, for science, and for the courage to believe in something greater. One evening, Cade and Alara walked along the ridge overlooking the colony. The twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in brilliant shades of red and violet. "Do you remember what you said to me when we first met?" Alara asked softly. Cade chuckled. "Something about surviving storms and thriving despite limits," she smiled. "Yes. And now we've done it. We've shown that humans can surpass what others think is possible." Cade took her hand gently. "Not just what others think. Sometimes we even surpass what we think is possible ourselves. That's what makes humans humans." Alara felt a warmth in her chest, a sense of hope and possibility that stretched far beyond the horizons of New Horizon. The impossible had been made possible, and the future, once uncertain and full of doubt, now glowed with promise. And somewhere in the quiet glow of the alien plants, the world seemed to recognize it too. Humans had dared, humans had tried, and humans had thrived. The colony of New Horizon would never be the same again. The twin suns rose over New Horizon, spilling golden light over the red dust and metal structures. The colony was alive with quiet anticipation. The past weeks had been extraordinary. Dr. Alara Vance had defied every expectation, showing the colony that the impossible was possible. And now, the time had come for the culmination of their journey. Alara woke early, the soft hum of the lab filling her small quarters. Her hand rested lightly over her abdomen, where the first undeniable spark of life had begun to grow. Each day, she felt it stronger, a gentle, steady affirmation of hope. She smiled softly, thinking of the long road that had brought her here, years of doubt, whispers of impossibility, and the courage to keep believing. Cade entered quietly, carrying a small tray of breakfast. He leaned against the doorframe, watching her with that familiar mixture of pride and tenderness. "Morning," he said softly. "Morning," she replied, her eyes glowing with warmth. "I can't believe this is real." Cade shook his head gently. "It is real. And it's more than anyone could have imagined. You did this. We did this together." Alara reached for his hand, intertwining their fingers. "I couldn't have done it without you," he smiled. "Humans are good at many things, Alara, defying limits, finding hope, and loving each other, even in the toughest times." The colony had begun to change. Where once there were whispers of doubt, now there was curiosity and admiration. Colonists visited the lab cautiously, eager to witness the results of the alien plants for themselves. Some had helped with cataloging the glowing flora, others with monitoring energy flows. Slowly, the once skeptical settlers began to see that human ingenuity, courage, and compassion could overcome any limitation. Elder Malin approached one morning, his steps slower than before. The stern expression remained, but his eyes carried a new respect. "Dr. Vance," he said, his voice measured, I doubted your work. I questioned whether we should allow such experiments, but now I see that you have given all of us a lesson. Humans can achieve what they believe is impossible. You have my respect." Alara inclined her head in acknowledgement. "Thank you, Elder Malin. All I did was refuse to accept limits. Humans have always been capable of more than we are told." Cade stood beside her, his hand on her shoulder. "And we all thrive when we dare to try, even when fear stands in the way." The final preparations for the birth were underway. The alien plants had been carefully monitored and controlled. Scientists and colonists alike had learned from Alara's meticulous observations. The colony was not just witnessing a miracle, they were participating in it, learning from it, and feeling the hope it inspired. Alara's body responded to the plant energy with steady, gentle changes. Each day brought reassurance and wonder. The impossible, once declared, had become reality. And now, the anticipation of new life was nearly unbearable with excitement. Cade remained her constant companion, helping with daily tasks, offering words of encouragement, and simply being present. Their bond had deepened beyond friendship into a partnership built on trust, respect, and shared wonder. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, Alara felt the unmistakable sign that the time had come. She turned to Cade, her eyes wide with awe and gratitude. "It's happening," she whispered. Cade nodded, holding her hand firmly. "I'm here. You're not alone." Together they entered the lab where the glowing plants provided a gentle, calming light. Sensors hummed softly, monitoring energy flows and environmental conditions. Every detail had been prepared meticulously. Alara felt a profound sense of peace. There was no fear, only trust in herself, in Cade, in the process, and in the power of life itself. The hours passed slowly but steadily. Cade remained by her side, his presence steady and comforting. They spoke in soft words, sharing memories, hopes, and dreams for the future. Alara reflected on how far she had come, from whispers of doubt and warnings of impossibility to a moment where life itself was blossoming within her. "Do you remember when we first met?" Alara asked softly, her hand resting on Cade's arm. He smiled, recalling the memory. "I do. You were quiet, determined, and I was foolishly confident that I could fix the world." Alara laughed softly. "You did more than fix the world. You helped me believe it could be better, that we could do more than survive, we could thrive." "And look at us now," Cade said, squeezing her hand gently. "We're proving it together." As the night deepened, the glow from the alien plants seemed to intensify, bathing the lab in soft, pulsing light. It was as if the planet itself recognized the miracle taking place, the triumph of human courage, hope, and ingenuity. The first moments of new life were subtle but unmistakable. A gentle stir, a pulse, a spark of energy within Alara's body. She smiled through tears, feeling an overwhelming sense of joy. "It's real," she whispered. "It's really happening." Cade's voice was soft, filled with emotion. "I always believed it could, but seeing it, it's even more incredible than I imagined." Alara reached for him, pulling him close. For a long moment they simply held each other, sharing the quiet wonder of creation. The colony gradually learned of the miracle. One by one, colonists approached the lab, witnessing the glowing plants and the gentle changes in Alara. There was no fear, only awe and admiration. Humans had defied limits, embraced courage, and discovered that hope could manifest in the most extraordinary ways. Elder Malin returned, quietly observing the gentle glow of the lab. His stern face softened and he spoke in a low voice. "Doctor Vance," he said, "you have taught all of us the value of perseverance, courage, and hope. I am grateful to witness this. Humans are indeed capable of miracles when they dare to believe." Alara nodded, her heart full. "We only needed to trust ourselves and each other. Life always finds a way when we give it a chance." The weeks passed with careful monitoring, preparation, and quiet anticipation. Every day, the colony learned, adapted, and celebrated small milestones. Ilara's body continued to respond positively, the alien plants providing gentle, life-giving energy. The impossible had become reality. Finally, the day arrived. Ilara and Cade stood together in the lab, hands intertwined, watching the gentle glow of the plants. The colony waited quietly outside, full of hope and awe. Then it happened. Life arrived in its quiet, miraculous form, a new generation, a spark of hope that would symbolize the courage, ingenuity, and resilience of humanity. Ilara cried softly, tears of joy running down her cheeks. Cade held her tightly, whispering words of love and admiration. The colony erupted in quiet celebration, understanding the profound significance of what they had witnessed. The new life was more than a personal miracle. It was a testament to human potential. The colony understood that courage, science, and compassion could overcome even the most impossible odds. Humans had not just survived on the edge of this alien world. They had thrived, created, and discovered a future filled with possibility. Ilara looked around at the glowing plants, the proud faces of the colonists, and Cade by her side. She felt a deep, unshakable sense of gratitude. The whispers of doubt, the warnings of impossibility, the fear of failure, they were all gone, replaced by hope, wonder, and a profound belief in what humanity could achieve. Cade squeezed her hand gently. "We did it," he said softly. "Humans did it." "Yes," Ilara whispered, "and this is just the beginning." The twin suns rose again over New Horizon, bathing the colony in warm light. The alien plants pulsed gently in response, the planet itself seeming to celebrate the triumph of life. And for the first time, humans on the frontier felt the full power of possibility, the truth that courage, hope, and determination could create miracles, even in the most unlikely places. A new generation had arrived, carrying with it the promise of discovery, resilience, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. And in that moment, the colony of New Horizon understood that no limit was final, no dream impossible, and no future beyond the reach of those who dared to believe. Humans had thrived. Humans had hoped. Humans had triumphed. And the universe was watching, waiting for what they would do next.